Hold on, you guys. Double tap. Double tap to flip keyboard. Ah, yay! I got it. Hey, hey, hey. Hi, everybody. Me and my technology. Good evening. Hey, how are you? Hey, D, how are you? Good evening. Good evening. What's going on, everybody? I'm trying to set up multiple devices at the same time. And since YouTube has a rule and has no chill and says that we can't play music to get pumped, I got to get some theme music. But I'm setting up my other device. Hey, yes, I'm excited that you made it live too. Awesome sauce. Okay, I'm setting up this device on this side. Okay. This works great. Okay, so let me get over here. Let me get some heart love. Okay, so I see Deronda is here. Who else is here? Let me check in live with our discussion group. So I posted some juicy nuggets today. I had such a fabulous day. Today is Thursday. Today is Gladiator Day. It is 8 p.m. and I love conversations on Thursday evenings, especially with my clients, because we all know that we need to wrap up by 9 p.m. to enjoy our Thursday night Shondaville. So today was a wonderful day today. I went to the Urban League's luncheon today to welcome in the new board members, acknowledge program participants, and just catch the community up on the wonderful work that the Urban League of Greater Atlanta does here in the community for our neighbors. So it was really great to see a lot of my community friends. It felt like a family reunion, and it was great to see everybody because this is the beginning of a really great time in nonprofits in Atlanta. So for those of you guys that are new, if you didn't get a chance to join us yesterday, this is day 2 of the 10 things you need to rock your nonprofit. So this is a 2-day series, and the first day we went over the first 5, and today we'll go over the remaining 5 over the list of 10. So I am your nonprofit navigator, and we're going to talk tonight about the 10 things you need to rock your nonprofit. And I am committed to helping nonprofits. And like I said yesterday, I've been getting some calls and some emails and just meeting people in the community like, B, I really want to serve in a bigger capacity. Like, I've had this passion project on my heart and I'm ready. This is the year for me to take it forward. And I also have community friends that said, hey, I've been in this game for about 10-15 years. I have a nonprofit, or I've been working in the nonprofit industry, and I have all of these vast array of skills and expertise. And how do I kind of merge everything together to mobilize and change and make a difference? So I'm committed to showing you all that process, and we're going to talk to a whole lot of people during our time together here in the Global Grant Gladiators. So depending on what device you are following me on, jump into our private, closed, exclusive Facebook group called Grant Gladiators. Global Grant Gladiators, excuse me. We are expanding, and I'll tell you guys about that later. We are Global, GLOBAL, Grant, GRANT, Gladiators, GLADIATORS. So let's just do a really quick recap. Today, I was thinking about the first 5, which was statement of need, target demographic, executive summary, budget, and number 5 was fundraising plan. And what I get a lot of feedback on off of all those first 5, the most, and if you excuse me, remember I got my water over here to stay hydrated. The most feedback I get back is from people with the fundraising plan. Because with nonprofit leaders and you having to manage everything day to day, it's a aha moment, or it's a breath of fresh air to know that you're not by themselves, and really splitting that budget down 45-55 to empower, and then empowering your board how to serve, because it's a lot easier to trim that down to a manageable budget and then over or plan over 90 days so your board members can be very successful in quarterly goals and achievements. So that was my biggest feedback today. So we're going to jump right in this evening on the last 5, and I'm very excited to share these resources with you. So if you want to jump into number 6 in your downloadable home study guide. If you're new to our Facebook group, let me go in here and kind of walk you through it. So if you're in our Facebook group and there's a tab that says discussion. Okay, my Wi-Fi just loves to act. Technology is something else. So there's a discussion tab. Next to that says members, events, photos, and then the last tab says files. You click on files and then it lists all of the files. Then there's a file that says download. Click that. If you have, I'm sure you have Adobe, it'll pop up, and we are on number 6. It looks like this. And this is my notes here. So let's jump into volunteers. And this is really cool because I call this squad goals for a nonprofit. And what this means is that you can welcome a vast array of volunteers to your nonprofit organization. But there does come a time where you have to figure out what category your volunteers go into and how to best serve their skill set. Because volunteers like to be hands-on. Volunteers don't like to come to an event and feel like that they're just sitting there. They want to be actively engaged and they want to see how your programs run. So make sure if you're planning a volunteer event that you have the hands-on deck that you need. So a volunteer works with an organization maybe about 2 to 4 hours for their first engagement. And then you can also plan full day. Sorry, my dog is up underneath. You'll meet him later. My dog is up underneath the table. And you have engagements for either half a day or a full day, depending on what the project is. So like if you have painting projects, of course, you can have 3 different rotation shifts of 4 hours because you don't want to burn out your volunteers, especially if this is their first time around. So the type of volunteers that you want to kind of look for, strengths and placements are your staff leadership positions. So if you're a new nonprofit and you're starting out, you want to do maybe your treasurer, your secretary, and your ED are your staff leadership positions that are volunteer. Then, of course, board members, that is a volunteer position, pretty straightforward. You can get a corporate pool of volunteers. You can have small and large group volunteers. These may be women or men's social groups, fraternities or sororities, youth groups, things of that nature. Then you have interns. Interns are another field of great volunteers because they come with a youthful spirit and a more aggressive approach of how to catapult your nonprofit into the next generation of change agents, where they utilize social media as well as they have different vehicles of marketing that are more aggressive than the standard nonprofit way of marketing to the community. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so show me some heart love if that makes sense when you're dealing with an internship program. So there's also administrative support. There's also, thanks for the heart love. There's also administrative support. This may be for your more seasoned volunteers. Prime example, thank goodness my mom does not have Periscope, but my mom and her girlfriends help me in the community in Cleveland when I go home to serve in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District. And because I am building my volunteer force, and my mom is still a very active senior and she runs with a group of active seniors, what better way is to help or ask them to help support me? And those are your strong group of seasoned volunteers. I put my mom and her best friend and my dad on the door at my college clinic, and they were able to run my door and my registration, I didn't have to worry about it because they come with a level of service that they have that experience. And then they don't have to lift anything. They feel like they're being engaging and they feel invested in their volunteer experience. And then, of course, you have your court-appointed volunteers. Now, depending on what type of organization that you are, you can register with your city or your county probation office as a referral source for those persons that are seeking court-appointed volunteer service hours. Now, when you're dealing with youth organizations, of course, there's very strict guidelines with that, so you probably want to stay away from that, or women or children, or a human sex trafficking, things that have a sensitive mission statement. You want to be mindful of the volunteers that you welcome into your organization. So when you're thinking about your squad goals, you want to choose, again, activities that best utilize their skill set and which encourages the volunteers to come back, serve again. And then there's a great opportunity for those volunteers to now become donors. Because again, donors like to feel like they're a part of something, and it's easier to ask for a donation from somebody that has experienced it hands-on. So who's on your squad? So, of course, you got to have a good founder. That founder is going to be able to tell from the heart if that founder is still living. If not, if it's a memorial type of foundation or a private family foundation, then a representative of some type of memorial that speaks to why that founder started the organization. Executive director, that is your face of your nonprofit. A program implementation. You got to have somebody on your squad that knows how to implement your program. Now, that of course is your executive director, but it really needs to be someone that can mirror your efforts, because if you're the ED and you have a program and you're meeting program participants or guests that are coming to meet you, you need somebody on the program side that's handling the logistics of either the workshop or the presentation or however it is that you're getting into your nonprofit administering those programs. You need a fundraiser. Of course, you need somebody to get money. You need a grant writer. I am a grant writer. You need someone, because grant writing and fundraising, even though they go hand in hand, you need somebody that is responsible for the marketing, the verbiage collateral. And what that means is that all the written stuff, you need someone that is experienced that can convey that message out to the community and put you in better positions to get grant opportunities. You need a lead worker bee. That is your volunteer coordinator. That is somebody that's going to roll their sleeves up, that requires minimal supervision, that you can drop the plan to them and they can go and take your marching orders and implement that, or along with the program implementer. Of course, you need legal counsel. If you have a nonprofit organization, you have to have someone that has a level of expertise when it comes to the legal formation of a nonprofit. Now, when I moved here in 2001, I was introduced to my nonprofit attorney, and he and I have been riding this whole time since 2001. I'm actually learning how to put together nonprofits under, he's now my mentor, and learning the process and learning the legal way of how to keep your nonprofit in compliance. So if you don't have that skill level or expertise, find somebody in the community. There are local law bar associations. There are law degree programs in colleges that you can ask somebody that's smarter than you in the legal department. Then there's bookkeeping and CPA. This is a biggie. It doesn't matter how small or large your nonprofit, you want to start off the good foot when it comes to your record keeping, your monthly reconciliations, and then you need a CPA. Now, when you get to a medium or a large size organization, that you will pay for a certified public accounting audit. And that ranges from, I've seen it at bare minimum, a really good one, $5,000 or more, depending on the budget of your organization. But you start looking at CPA budgets at about $25,000 or more. But you definitely need a bookkeeper that handles a software program. QuickBooks is the easiest to manage. When you get into other programs, sometimes other type of accounting software doesn't merge in different type of environments. When you're growing your business and you're growing your nonprofit, you need to have systems in place that you can integrate, and QuickBooks seems to be the best one. You need somebody in human resources to tell you how to manage not only your staff, but your volunteers and your board of directors. And you need industry experts. My goodness, always get someone smarter than you in the room that is an industry expert. If you are dealing in the healthcare field, make sure you have a doctor, a nurse, a CNA, someone that has a healthcare background, even though you may have a passion to give back to do heart research, but you're not a doctor, but you have an affinity for that because maybe just something happened to your heart or your loved one or whatever. That's great. Make sure that you connect yourself with an industry expert as one of your volunteers. So number 6 is volunteer squad goals for nonprofits. All right, so we're trucking right along. Let me check our Facebook group. So we had I think yesterday we started with 23. And I'm getting new to this Facebook group, so I'm learning and growing at the same time. But I know yesterday we started at 23, and it looks like we're up to 36, so we are really growing just in the last day because this is something new for me, and I'm really, really excited about this. So I'm getting some really great feedback from you guys. So number 7, social media for social projects. Okay, so there is... no matter how big or small your nonprofit is, there is someone in the world that needs your programs. There is someone in this world that needs your programs. But in knowing that, there is also someone in this world that's also doing similar work just like you, just no one can do it better than you at what it is that you do. And there's other organizations that fall within that industry. So to get your message out on a global platform, because as you know, the internet is 24/7, your nonprofit organization is 24/7. There are 10 social media platforms that every nonprofit should be on. And so let me run down the top 10. Facebook. There is, of course, your personal page. There's groups and there's pages. Within groups, you can have live discussion like what we're doing tonight. Pages, you have people come like your pages because with different nonprofit grant opportunities, there are questions on there that ask a question, how many likes does your social media page have? Because different corporate organizations want to align themselves with social media because your nonprofit customers and donors or clients or however you reference them, are their potential customers. So they want to align themselves with a nonprofit that's doing great in the community. Periscope, of course, we're on Periscope this evening, and then Twitter is falls along with Periscope because those platforms communicate on a different level than it does Facebook. But Facebook is always your landing pad for your social media. Then, of course, there's Instagram and Snapchat. Snapchat is more used for those organizations that deal with youth. 24 to below. Facebook is for all different type of demographics, but that's normally for your college students and above. Of course, LinkedIn, that's the professional. Hey, Heart Love, great. Your LinkedIn. LinkedIn is, of course, your professional network, and it works on a platform like Facebook. Then there's something called SlideShare. Some of you all may be new to SlideShare. If you go to, and I'm going to pull this up while I'm talking to you guys at the same time. If you go to SlideShare, SlideShare is a free online community that is, their parent company is LinkedIn. And just like tonight's, these last 2 nights presentation, I'm going to upload it to SlideShare, which is a PowerPoint presentation. And with the notes section, you add that stuff in too. And then you become an expert in the field of your nonprofit on SlideShare. And it's a whole array of a community that you can go into nonprofits and share information like this. That's on SlideShare. There's Tumblr, of course, because that's the premier site for blogging. Then there's Blab. It's very compatible to Google Hangout. but Blab is where you can have teleconferences for free. Then, of course, there's Google and Google Hangout. That's the most commonly shared way that I like to communicate with my nonprofit and my community leaders and my students with College Clinic in Cleveland, or if they have a very busy schedule and can't meet me in person. So it's very good to have Google Hangout with nonprofits if you're sharing, because you can reach a multitude of that, and you can raise your Google Plus platforms with your nonprofit. And then your nonprofit, if you are speaking and promoting about your nonprofit, or you have a video clip, you can put the audio on SoundCloud, iTunes, or Blog Talk Radio just to get your exposure. So that's the top 10. And then also with your social media calendar, it is very good to bring your social media calendar and write it out in the beginning. Your content, write your content out for a calendar. You want to do it for 3 months, 90 days, but that's a little aggressive to begin with. But start with 30 days. So take a calendar and pick and write down what you're going to post for your AM and what you're going to post for your PM. And if you keep it in a Google Doc file and all you have to do is copy and paste, you put your pictures in there as well as your content. If you copy and paste, or you put it in your notes section in your phone, and your pictures file in your phone as well, and all you're doing is copy and pasting the information, and that raises your level of activity on your social media platforms. So just a rule of thumb, the best times to post on social media are Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays, between the 2 to 5 o'clock traffic time frame. And then again later those same days at 7 p.m. to midnight. So again, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, between 2 p.m. and 5 p.m. is the best time to post on social media. And then again, the same days later on that evening from 8 to midnight. And then of course, the most active times on social media is Friday through Sunday, because it's like the club on the weekend. So if you really want to get your nonprofit out there, you're doing a fundraising campaign, a GoFundMe, people are paying attention to during those hours. So again, if you're just jumping on us on Periscope, you can go into our exclusive Facebook group at Global Grant Gladiators, a nonprofit club. Yes, we are the nonprofit club. So option 1, if you need help with social media, like myself, I really need help with social media. So there are 3 different options that I recommend that you take. Either you can hire a nonprofit consultant that has Adobe skills, but has a background of going and posting and having relationships with all 10 of the aforementioned social media platforms, but that is a high level expense. So if your organization can't afford, then that option 2 is you do it yourself. And that you can either download the Adobe software yourself and take some online free training courses, or you're self-paced on YouTube, you can find some videos. Or if you have an office with a spare desk, download that, find a volunteer, and have them come in and manage that as well. And then option number 3 is that there are free mobile software like Canva, that's CANVA. .com. If you download that app to your phone, then you can create kind of your real cool social media squares, and you can do a lot of that. It's just kind of text or finding different pictures that you can put inspirational sayings or information about your nonprofit. And then there's InstaSize. So say, for instance, like today, I went to the Urban League event and I had a picture. Well, of course, when you take the picture and sometimes when you upload it to social media, it gets all wonky and out of shape. So that app InstaSize puts it into formation. It puts it into formation. And so you could upload it and it's a clear picture. So number 7 is social media for social projects. Okay, number 8, let's see how we're looking here with our Facebook friends and within the community. So I'm going to start adding some friends and really inviting people to the conversation that I know would be interested in sharing their wisdom as well. And Duranda, I'm going to come talk to you about joining me on these conversations as well. So professional development and always be a student. Even though I have a master's in nonprofit management. Yay, thanks, you agree. Cool. So even though I have a master's in nonprofit management and a master's in public administration, no, wait. I have so many degrees I have to figure out with the student loan still paying it. But my MBA is in marketing and I have a master's of public administration and nonprofit management. That's what I have. But even with those type of credentials, I always find myself in some type of training program. I stay connected to the community. I stay connected to professional development organizations, webinars, different social media groups, reading, always staying connected to getting a nonprofit mentor. You always have to stay connected because you don't want to grow alone. And even though you may not have a formal education, even if you just have a compassion to do what it is that you do and you do it very great within the community, always find resources that can help you shape your nonprofit to be the best servant here in the community. Now, I do run into organizations, and when you're first starting off, it's very natural to ask your family members to be your board of directors. And that's okay for a limited part of time if they don't come with nonprofit experience, but you want to either evaluate, well, if they want to stay on board, what type of professional resources or professional development opportunities can I expose them to? Or B, bring on more board members that have experience and then rotate those family members to an advisory position where they still have some type of input, but you're bringing in a level of skill set because those board members are going to have voting rights for your nonprofit, and you really want to make sure that you have a group of people and board members that can make the best decisions for your nonprofit organization. So, nonprofit professional development organizations, you may be asking, okay, well, where do I find them? Okay, so at of course, Google. Google is going to be your best source to find what's going on in your local community because, of course, Periscope is we are global grant gladiators. And so you first want to use your search engine. Number one, I'm going to start doing a lot more of these conversations, not only online and in the community, to educate nonprofit people and change agents in the community. Number two, United Way. I started my nonprofit career when I moved to Atlanta at the United Way. I served as a sponsored loan executive, which means that during their campaign season between August and December, that I would come in and I would be a lend support and help generate money for the United Way organizations that they give money out to. Well, that was in 2005, and when Hurricane Katrina hit in the middle of our campaign season, it was an adjustment. But one thing that I learned with the United Way is about messaging. And even in the midst of a hurricane, of course, that never happened in our lifetime. So not only was FEMA trying to figure it out, so was nonprofits trying to figure out, because those, of course, are the second responder after the federal or the third responder after the federal and the state comes in. But one thing that I learned about United Way is that how to keep your message consistent no matter what's going on in the environment around you. Case in point. So United Way was number 2 after the city of Houston of people that were leaving the Gulf Coast and looking for drier land. And Houston, people were going to Houston, people were coming to Atlanta. Well, because Atlanta, it was already populated in 2005, then that means that nonprofit organizations was the backbone of that, because now your population grew within the services of the nonprofits, whether you were a homeless shelter, whether you were an after school program, whether you were a food pantry, whatever it was, you had extra people. We had close to 150,000 people day one moving after Katrina here to the nonprofits. So what that meant is that the community wanted to have emotional giving, and so they wanted to give their yearly donations that they were given to the nonprofit directly to the Red Cross, because that was an emergency services. But one thing that we learned was that you have to learn how to craft your messaging. So when you were speaking during Hurricane Katrina season and trying to meet a $600,000 campaign goal, what I would say is that we count on donors like you to give to nonprofits or give to the United Way, because we give to nonprofits in the community. But because our community has expanded and welcome our new neighbors in the community, we need your donations because we have more people to serve and a more immediate need to serve. So you can give to our emergency campaign fund, but we still need your dollars, because as you gave last year, you saw how your donation impacted the community. And imagine if your gift was not there this year, that our nonprofits needed to welcome the new growth of our new residents, something along that nature. But I was able to connect with the donor, make sure that messaging was clear that their donation was needed this year, as well as to help them with their compassion heartstring, give to an organization that still helps the immediate need. So, but I would not have learned that if I wasn't in a professional development environment to help you craft your message to waiver not only things that are going in the environment, but what are going on in your nonprofit. So here's some benefits. I think I went through the list. So United Way, Grant Professional Association. I'm a new member, a new board member. Hey, y'all. But there are many chapters across the United States. The Association for Fundraising Professionals, that's another nonprofit organization, and that is a national organization. Foundation Center. Everyone knows about a Foundation Center online. You have to have a subscription in order to look, or you can come to Atlanta and look at the Foundation Center here in Atlanta, Georgia. And then a lot of large cities have something called a community foundation. So you want to check your local community to see if there's a community foundation and there are giving and grant opportunities there. Your local colleges with public administration majors, those majors have professional development organizations. Your city, local, federal have interest groups as well. They have task force. I just attended the Department of Juvenile Justice task force meeting. It's open to the community. And if you deal with juveniles and you're helping them transition back into reentry, find those type of reentry groups. And then there's community task force. If you're working in the community, each neighborhood or each, depending on how your community is divided, there are community task force. Then industry-led conferences and social interest groups. So the benefits of being a part of a social or professional development program is you can learn more about federal regulations, learn how to craft, be around like-minded nonprofit individuals. And so as you're building your budget, as we talked about that yesterday, as you're building your budget, make sure that you put a line item expense in there for you to get professional development. I am always a student. So as you all came and enrolled in this class, this free 2-day training because you're a student of this craft, continue to stay connected not only to our community, but find other interest groups that also speak within the community of nonprofit. And then get on people's mailing list. That's how you find out about things that are going on in the community. Number 9, nonprofit business license and insurance. Protecting your nonprofit. Now, when I first engaged, because I'm a nonprofit consultant and I work for a nonprofit and I have a nonprofit. So I make sure that any nonprofit environment that I am in, whether it's group or one-on-one coaching, is that before we get into, I need a grant writer. Before we get into, can you help me develop my board? Before we get into, I have this program and I have this free space and I'm ready to, start my program. Before we even get started with this, we need to check the basic fundamentals of a nonprofit organization. Are you too legit to quit to make sure that you have everything in place? So, because there are a lot of different funding opportunities that come up, that they make sure that you have to have all of these things checked up or you're not even eligible to apply for that. Say, for instance, that you see a $75,000 opportunity. You know the person that is one of the decision makers and they say, hey, go online, fill this out. we have this opportunity for you, we'll push it through, and sometimes these magic opportunities happen. But what happens if you're going through the list and you don't have the different criteria that they're asking for? One being a strategic plan, but we talked about that yesterday. So there's 3 main levels of general compliance that a nonprofit should have. The first is at your federal level. So that's your top level. So at the federal, that's where you get your 501c3 determination. That's a one-time fee. And your Form 990, that is an annual registration. That's your annual tax filing. So like how you file your personal taxes, you have to file taxes on your nonprofit. So you fill that out one time a year. So at the end of your fiscal year, you have 30 days. No, it's a little longer than 30 days, but you should do it within the first 60 days of the closing of your fiscal year. So say, for instance, that your fiscal year closes December the 31st. You should really have that in by February the 15th, no later than February the 28th, because you need to reconcile your files. That is for organizations that have a budget of $25,000 or below. Now, once you get into $25,000 and above, that's when the CPA comes in, and there's what different filings come in. And then depending on what type of nonprofit that you had and how you started it, then you can claim that on your personal taxes with a Schedule C, but you need to check with your CPA about that. The second level is your state level. So there's different tiers depending on what different states that you live in. But of course, you need to file with the Secretary of State. That's where you file your articles of corporations and your bylaws. And then your charity registration, depending on your state. The state of Georgia wants all nonprofits that collect money in a nonprofit manner to be registered with the state. So there's a small fee for that. And then if you do business in another state, you need to check your state regulations. Just like how I've done business in other states, I have to check their regulation as far as what type of taxes that I need to pay. But because you're tax exempt, you don't have to pay them, but you still have to register as an entity. So, and then there's also a local and city level. So here in Atlanta, we have city licensing, depending on where you are, your municipality across the United States. You need to check on your local level, and that is an annual registration. So those are the 3 tiers of your nonprofit business licensing. Now, nonprofit insurance. Now, if you have car insurance, health insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, home insurance, boat insurance, whatever insurance companies, life insurance, whatever insurance, pet insurance, I have an animal. You always have to have some type of insurance, and there's nonprofit insurance. And a lot of nonprofits that are starting off don't really know about this, but there's different types of nonprofits that, different type of insurances that nonprofit needs. Sorry, that's my dog. Our team mascot sneezing. Bless you. That's the real life Periscope when you have a Periscope from home. Okay. So D&O insurance, the D and O stands for directors and officers insurance. So what that means is that if your nonprofit is sued, your directors and officers insurance covers your board of directors' personal assets. And it's a layer of protection to make sure that your nonprofit was not acting out of integrity with the funds, because your nonprofits, that's very common in nonprofits. Unfortunately, I just got a call a while ago from one of my community partners saying that they had a federal reimbursement program, and they allowed someone, they were the executive director, and they allowed one of their team members to put in the reimbursement forms with the federal government. And that person was fraudulent, took documentation, forged documents, forged the executive director's signature. And by the time that the executive director found out is when the federal government had notified them, because there was a discrepancy in their reimbursement. And so now that nonprofit is being looked at in a federal capacity, and the smile face. Yes, this is real life. And this is why I like to have these conversations, because people don't know. And I had advised them that, like, if you had D&O insurance, that protects your board of directors. because if anything happens, you have that layer of insurance. So I'm sure I'll do a scope about direct D&O insurance, but you are responsible as the executive director of any money that comes in and out of the organization. Heart love. Hey, Andre. Hey, how are you? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So you also need to have general liability insurance, at least $1 million. That's what most organizations like to work with you is your partner organizations to have at least $1 million. Then special event insurance. If you can't afford a general liability policy, or if you're working in your programs and you're just doing quarterly programs and you're just getting started, that's great. Get event insurance. Event insurance will run you about $150, $300. Now build that into your budget. Because God forbid something happens, that you have that layer of protection. You want to put your organization's name on there and a certificate of insurance of whoever the facility that you're running that out. Let me repeat that again. When you get event insurance, that you want to have not only yourself, your nonprofit, your event facility, as well as any community partners that are major that will be joining. That way, in the event that something happens, that they're covered as well. If you're working with youth organizations or adult services, or really a lot of nonprofits are moving into the sexual predator insurance, and that's an additional rider, especially in this climate that there is an additional rider that goes on your general liability insurance that insures you in the event that your screening does not catch a sexual predator. There is state and federal background checks. Your state has a Bureau of Investigation that is going to cover your state. But of course, we're in a transient world and people move and people have histories. So you want to get a federal level. If your organization can afford that, you want to get it on the state as well as the federal, the background check as well as fingerprints. Because even depending on where you get your fingerprint, it may not transfer over counties. So those are your rule of thumb of your nonprofit business license. So one of the homework questions and in your home study in your own time is, does your nonprofit have all of the federal, state, and local compliance levels that I just listed tonight? Or if there's more that I don't know about, please drop that in our discussion in our Facebook group at Global Grant Gladiators, and let us know if there's additional licensing or business insurance that we would need to help our nonprofit, because this is a community about sharing resources with nonprofits. My distilled water. All right, so last but not least, my favorite is community partners. Now, you cannot grow alone, and this work is too big for you to do by yourself all the time. So you want to find people that, and other nonprofits, like I said, there is somebody in this world that needs your gift. There's somebody in this world that needs your gift. And there's somebody else in this world that's doing similar work that you are, that you can create synergy projects, not only to help share resources to make a bigger impact. Like I told you guys yesterday, I run an after-school program at Dunbar Recreation Center in Mechanicsville, Georgia, that's right around Turner Field. Now, even though I have one night a week, I am a part of an amazing group of other nonprofits, and we call ourselves the A-Team. We are the after-school team. That's a task force that I launched earlier this year of the other nonprofits that are providing after-school activities during that week. So we have Pizzo Johnson. He has a organization to help youth channel their voice through poetry over poems. We also have an organization called the Music Education Group, where they have music technology and digital workshops at Dunbar Recreation Center and across the community. We have another brother that's in there, Art. He teaches stress management with our youth, as well as we have, I think we have one more. I can't remember. But when our task force comes together, we create different type of packages where we can go around the community and share our nonprofit, because some organizations, they have the students, but maybe someone has fallen off a rotation, the kids have lost interest. So we present ourselves as a community partnership, that because we service youth have different interests, so other nonprofits can come join us, or we can offer our services to an array of opportunities in the community. So when I was talking about task force, what I mean by a task force is call up at least 4 people that you know that are doing dope stuff in the community as a nonprofit just like you. You don't have to have it perfect. You don't have to have it right. They don't have to have it perfect or have it right. But when your groups come together and work on one project, and now you become an expert in that type of opportunity. So ours is after school. Maybe yours may be animal rights. You find 4 other nonprofits that's doing the similar work. Maybe yours is fighting obesity. You work with people, healthcare. Find 4 other people that are nonprofit organizations that's doing it in the community. Do not grow alone. So as we're going to wrap up, I want you to kind of think about your community partners, who you want to be on your squad, and then whose squad do you want to be on? When I talk with my nonprofit clients, you don't know until you ask. We are living in a time now where we're in the spirit of giving. I think a lot of people are finding their life purpose, and they're linking with other people that know what their life purpose is, and it's in a service of giving. And once you start talking and connecting with people, you're able to hitch your caboose to other people's cabooses, and you can take that train over the mountain. So I have, Andrea, I know you're on the scope tonight, and I think in your blog post that you had mentioned something about a vision board. And that is a great visual concept also for nonprofits. So I also challenge you, as Andrea challenged me to create a vision board for myself. I am going to pay it forward and ask my followers and my Facebook group is that I want you to create a vision board for your nonprofit. I want you to put on your vision board your squad, your volunteer. I want you to put on your vision board your community partners. I want you to put on your vision board your financials, who you want to be your donors, who you want to get grants from. I want you to put on your vision board where you want to go professionally if nonprofit is going to transition you into full-time, if you want to become a consultant, if you want to work for a nonprofit. I want you to create a nonprofit vision board for your nonprofit. And I want you to share that in our Facebook discussion group. So I promised you guys that I would have you guys off by 9 o'clock. Plus, this is night 2 of my federal grant. I told you guys last night I am a federal grant reviewer, and as soon as I get the hang of this process, I am going to do a scope of how to become a federal grant writer, federal grant peer reviewer. And what that means is that I've been selected by a panel to read a selected group of grants and lend my level of expertise, and then I get a stipend for reading that. And I think us in nonprofits is that we got to learn not only to be in the giving part of nonprofit, but also the receiving, and learning what both sides of that table looks like. So I really appreciate you guys for all of the heart love. Give me some heart love before we leave. Yay! So I want to thank you guys for joining me on this 2-day virtual training summit. And I thank you guys for your support. We're going to have more communications like this. I think that I'm going to do this on Thursday nights from 8 to 9 o'clock and continue the conversation. So invite people to our Facebook group, invite people to replay this, share this on your Twitter feed as well. And then I think that we are going to move into a Google Hangout platform, because there are some really cool documents that I want to share with you guys. And remember, Google Hangouts is one of the social media platforms that you need to be on anyway. So there's a lot of homework and a lot of great juicy nuggets in that home study course. So enjoy. Enjoy your weekend, and I look forward, and keep looking out for things that I am going to bring to the community. So continue to serve. Thank you for joining us, and I'll see you next time. Bye.